Welcome to the Weekly Well. The 12th chapter of Romans, the first two verses, they say this. And so, dear brothers and sisters, I plead with you to give your bodies to God because of all He has done for you. Let them be a living and holy sacrifice, the kind He will find acceptable. This is truly the way to worship Him. Don't copy the behavior and customs of this world, but let God transform you into a new person by changing the way you think. Then you will learn to know God's will for you, which is good and pleasing and perfect. There are two phrases, two sections here that immediately jump out for me. And the first one is this, that because of all that God has done for you, let them be a living and holy sacrifice. Our lives are to be a sacrifice for Jesus. Why? Because of all that He has done for us. Well, that's not a very common thing that people like to hear these days, to be a living sacrifice, to sacrifice. But yet, why do we do that? Because of all Jesus has done for us. And what has He done for us? Well, He sacrificed Himself for us. He died on the cross for you and for me. He gave up His life so that we could live. Our sin was taken care of. And now, because of our love for Him and for what He's done, we now sacrifice ourselves as living sacrifices for Him to use. It's a brilliant picture. God does not require of us or ask us to do anything that He hasn't already done. The second part is, it says, let God transform you into a new person by changing the way you think. Let God transform you by changing the way that you think. I don't know if you're like me, but I assume you probably are. The way that I think is often incredibly flawed. I am a product of the sin in my life often. My thoughts reflect difficulties and fallenness. And so the way I think is not perfect. The way I think is often very skewed towards selfishness and sin. It says here, we are to allow God to transform us by changing the way we think so that we can more accurately reflect Him and His character. That's what we're called to do, and that's who we're called to be. That's who God has created us to be. In His image, we are to reflect His character. And so, as you go throughout your week, I would ask that you would pray and ask God to do these things for you, to change the way you think, that you would be transformed, that your life would not be characterized by thoughts that are selfish and sinful, but that your life would display the character of God, and that you would constantly be thinking about, how do I more accurately display who Jesus is? That way, people, when they see you, are drawn to Him and drawn into a restored relationship with God the Father. God bless you, and I look forward to seeing you again next week.